YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. An hour away until that NFL trade deadline. A lot more rumors heating up. So I wanted to give you my final predictions, and we'll take a look at the latest rumors. And with these guys being on the block, we're going to take a look at their best fits and which teams they can land on. We did this video, very similar video, yesterday on Monday. So if you're thinking some more players should be in here that you're not seeing, go check out that video. They may be in there. We'll also talk about some of my final predictions that aren't on this video at the very end. Right before we get started, we have extra content available on our Patreon, patreon.com/thegoathouse. Score predictions, playoff predictions, mock drafts updated every single week. Link in the description. And we're trying to get to that 40K subscriber goal. Please get us there. We're getting close. We'd appreciate it very much. Full NFL content, not just in season, but in the offseason as well, every single day here. First guy I want to talk about, Jamal Adams, the hottest name that just came on the block. Value is a first-round pick plus. It could be a first and a second rounder. Could be a first and a third. I think it should be more than that. You know, I think he's one of the better safeties in football. He was my number one prospect in his draft class, so I'm very high on Jamal Adams. So you see the best fits, teams that need safety, teams that are pretty solid on the cap space. They don't need a tremendous amount of cap space for Jamal Adams, but teams that are somewhat good or better too, because I don't think a team in a losing situation should really trade for him because he may want out very quickly. So that's why you see some of those teams. My prediction is the Cowboys. That's really starting to heat up. He wants to play there. The Cowboys, I've been saying for weeks, they always make this big-time move to kind of gain energy and momentum for their team, as they should. It worked out last year. So this is that big move that the Cowboys will make. I really think it'll happen. Other team, we know like teams like the Texans and the Eagles aren't afraid to trade. The Chargers pairing him with Derwin James for the future would be just great. And the Panthers, that defense would be very scary, just adding kind of that piece they need. But the main team besides the Cowboys I would look at is the Colts. They tested the free agency market for safeties strongly, but they didn't want to overpay for average to barely above average safeties when Jamal Adams is not an overpay. He's really not getting paid enough on his current contract, which makes sense because still on his rookie contract, but he also is a lot better than those guys. So the Colts may be comfortable to do that, but their defense is also playing very well. So the Colts would be my second choice. Cowboys would be the first. I'm predicting him to actually get traded for the Cowboys for a first and still a good amount more ammo with that. So we'll see. LeVeon Bell, another Jets player that has come up this morning, surprisingly. The Jets just want assets, more important assets with their draft picks mainly, and that's offensive line, receivers. It's more of a passing league. They got to protect Darnold. They got to protect him from throwing interceptions under pressure. So it made sense that they can throw him on the block. They're going to be asking for a second-round pick and some, in terms of early mid-round picks. Along with that, maybe it's 2 second-round picks. I'm going to say there's no takers, no trade. If I had to pick the team most likely interested, it would probably be the Chiefs. If I had to go the second choice, it's tough between the Lions and the Texans. Those are the top 3. The other 3 are big-time wild card teams to trade for them. Very unlikely. Just thought they were good fits. The Chiefs, Texans, then Lions. Those are my rankings for that. The Chiefs being the most interest, but no trade, I'm predicting. No takers. Why? Because he was just a free agent. The Jets were the highest bidder. Teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Texans, they had an opportunity. I actually thought he would go to the Texans at one point. But those teams had an opportunity to outbid or match the bid of the Jets. They did not, and gaining him in a trade would mean they would gain that contract they did not want to pay for on top of them trading a valuable pick. Most likely, they would not want to do it unless it's for less than his value, and that's his value there. So I think they would do it if it's for a 4th round, maybe 2 fourths, a 4th, a 5th. Something cheaper because they have to pay him at the same time, which they did not want to. So that's something that people are forgetting about and why I think this trade is very unlikely. The reason it says no trade / Kansas City, I'm predicting a no trade, but if I had to pick a team to make things interesting, the Chiefs. I like the Texans and the Lions as well. Next trade, Marcus Mariota. Interesting. I didn't think he'd be traded. I predicted weeks ago that he would end up on the Bears in free agency. But today, this morning, the Titans are working out a couple quarterbacks. One of them is Josh Johnson. Weird that they're working out the quarterbacks. 1. 2 is you don't sign or work out Josh Johnson to be a 3rd-string quarterback. So something is for sure up there. 2 things, he could go to the IR. He has kind of this lingering injury, nerve damage from a couple years ago, keeps coming back. He could re-aggravated that, so they could place him on the IR if he gets traded. I think the Bears are the perfect fit. Mark Helfrich was the Oregon offensive coordinator for Marcus Mariota. He is the Bears offensive coordinator for a reason, because that is a similar system, Matt Nagy's system. Marcus Mariota fits it. I'm still predicting him to land on the Bears in free agency. It sounds like most likely he could go to the IR. I haven't actually heard that, but I'm thinking that's actually very possible. IR or trade to the Bears. I don't know if he sticks around and doesn't go to the IR or traded, they're not going to sign one of those guys. So that's why it was very interesting. You don't sign Josh Johnson to be a third-string quarterback. You really just don't. Value, fourth-round pick. Is he really worth that by his play? It's kind of questionable at this point, because I think the injury over the years kind of messed him up, because he used to be a darn good player and still young. But teams that could be desperate could, spend like a fourth-round pick or equal value, fifth, 2 5s. I know the Bears are loaded with 5s. Bears are the team that's the best fit. They could definitely use him. I think he's an upgrade from Trubisky. So that's definitely the team to watch out for now in free agency. But he could be headed to the IR, so very interesting. Andy Dalton, another one. He's getting benched on his birthday, actually. Ryan Finley steps up to the plate. A pretty good draft pick. I like Ryan Finley. It's going to be tough, though, in a losing situation with a very rough offensive line, maybe the worst offensive line in football. So can Andy Dalton be traded? You see some similar teams there. I threw the Bucs up there. It's a deep wild card. I mean, all these teams are pretty much wild card. Flacco, being out for the Broncos, and then they can't win with Brandon Allen. Depends on if they think they can win or not. The Bears, I think, are more likely to go for Mariota than Dalton. I say no takers. He values a fifth-round pick at the best, I think, and no takers. That kind of goes together. Why? Because of the contract. A big cap hit this year. We're halfway through the season. The main thing is the $17.7 million cap hit next year. If a team like the Bears went to go trade for him, they'd be pretty much screwed for re-signing their own guys, screwed for, signing other guys in free agency, so they can't do it. The Bucs, I think they'd rather test the market or stick with Winston. The Broncos, they would be screwed with their cap situation too. They're a little safer on the cap, but they won't be with Dalton and with Flacco, and then whatever they want to do in the draft, or if they want to go Drew Lock, who the hell knows. So I think very unlikely he gets traded, but they could be testing the market with him. Another Bengal, Tyler Eifert. O.J. Howard, the cost is too much. The asking price is way too much, so that sounds like it's not going to happen. We talked about Eifert or O.J. Howard in last night's video. Same video, different players. Values, a fifth-round pick plus some more things there. They could be asking for a fourth, and they could get a fourth. I just think since they're rebuilding, they're just trying to get picks no matter what it is, and because he has a high injury risk, I think a fifth round and maybe a sixth makes sense, even though his talent is definitely better than that. I think the Patriots are pretty desperate. I think the Seahawks are pretty desperate. The other teams are pretty much wild cards at this point. Patriots, Seahawks, heavy favorites, and might be a battle for Tyler Eifert here, but they're also in on some other smaller players, or possibly a corner for the Seahawks and maybe Chris Harris. But Patriots, Seahawks, look out for those teams. If he doesn't go to the Patriots, I think he goes to Seahawks. If not, maybe he stays, but keep an eye out for the other teams. I think the Jags would probably be my third choice if I had to choose a third one for the best fit. But Patriots, Seahawks, I'll say the Patriots, but yeah, that's a battle between Patriots and Seahawks there. And I want to revisit a player that we talked about yesterday. That's Chris Harris Jr., and why it says Seattle/Philadelphia for my prediction, because yesterday and my original pick for kind of weeks now was Seattle. But now it's sounding like the Eagles may be the favorite, but at the same time, there could be no deal because their asking price is pretty high for an expiring contract cornerback here. So maybe expect no deal here because of the asking price. But if I had to predict, just to let you guys know, my original prediction was the Seahawks. Now it sounded like the Eagles could heat up. The Texans were very in on it around the time they traded for Conley. So maybe they cooled off. I know there is a big difference between Chris Harris and Conley, so they can get back in on the action there. No GM and Bill O'Brien being the GM, and knowing that he wants to win now before it's too late for him, whether it's next year, 2 years, if he gets fired, it's definitely a possibility. I'm not predicting anything to happen, but he knows he has to go out and trade out for the best players, so he's willing to keep on trading. But Seattle, my original prediction, and the Eagles would be in the next one, and some of the other teams. The Bills and the Buccaneers would probably be next tier. I'd say Seahawks, Eagles, Texans, and then Bills, Bucks would be the next tier teams. Deep wild cards, Panthers, and Cowboys. I think their focus is elsewhere right now. Again, we talked about a bunch of other players yesterday. Trent Williams, one I want to bring up, sounds like they want too much, but the leverage, they don't have too much leverage, the Redskins. I don't think they're going to get a first-round pick, and then they can get, a bunch of seconds, thirds. But apparently they want a pick and a guy like Denzel Ward from the Browns. I don't see John Dorsey drafting Denzel Ward. He liked him that much to take him 4th overall, take him over players that had higher potential to most. They like Denzel Ward. There's rumors that because he hasn't been playing much, people forget he's been hurt. His first game back, he played 99% of the snaps. I really don't think Dorsey trades Denzel Ward. I know they're desperate for a tackle, but Trent Williams also comes with some injury concern too. So I would not like that deal. I would not like it if somebody traded a first-round pick for him, even though he's a talented dude. I don't think a deal happens there because the Redskins are really playing hardball, but they're not in too much of a position to be able to do that. If you want to trade him, you got to quit playing hardball. I think they should trade him because he's not going to play for you. So that's something I'm monitoring. I talked about him a lot more in yesterday's video. Something that's definitely very interesting. So we'll see. Trying to get this video recorded and done, uploaded before any of these happen. So as you can tell, I kind of talk pretty fast, so apologize for that. But we got through the points. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Again, same video was yesterday, different players. Check it out. We also have trade grades for players that already were traded and a big trade grade video for any players that are going to be traded after this point here. So a lot to go over, along with our usual weekly uploads in the NFL with recaps, power rankings, predictions, score predictions, and more on the Patreon. So hopefully you can join us for all those videos. Hopefully you can subscribe, help us get to that 40K goal. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.